Hi there. Today we're talking about you, but also about you talking about you to others. What do I mean? Today we're talking about the idea of you and how when you think about you, the other person, the other you for you, confusing, no? How that can get you out of your head and can get you into a comfortable situation. I'm going to be doing a lot of name dropping here because in terms of our coaches, because they've brought a lot of strong content to our webinars recently. So I'm combining a lot of different ideas that are really about you. I'm telling it through 3 stories. So let's begin. Welcome. It's great to have you here. Today we're going to talk about networking, but the fun parts of networking, the parts about you. This is based on a lot of the content that you've seen our coaches bring to the table here. First, you saw Nancy Ankowitz talk about networking and how we all dislike doing it. We dislike doing it. We think it's not so great, but it's very helpful, and it's helpful to do it in incremental bites where you're helping others. So if you think about what she said, she's saying, this is about you, about the other person, that you. That's Nancy. And then yesterday you saw us have Alex Goldfein on the program. And he talked about selling, his 5-minute selling, his new best-selling book. And he said, look, it's really just about telling the person you were thinking about them. So I told you I'm going to tell you today about networking through 3 stories. So here's story number 1 for me. You would think, right? You would think Senia Maymin, here she is. She's an experienced coach. She listens to the people who come on her program. You would think I would have internalized this content. So here's Alex Goldfein yesterday to me saying, Senia, when you reach out to someone, actually just say, I was thinking about you. So what do I go and do? There's someone that I have a great relationship with. It's a consistent client of ours, but I really just like this person as a person. We talk about a lot of deep things. So I reached out to this person because I really was thinking about her. And I reached out and to schedule every once in a while, we'll do an impromptu catch up. So I reached out to her to schedule this. And what did I do? I just said, hey, would love to catch up. Here's some availability. I didn't say I was thinking about you. I was thinking about her. The reason I'm reaching out is I was thinking about her. I'm wondering how she's doing, how things are. I didn't say I was thinking about you. Why do we not say the thing that's actually true and the thing that actually is pretty nice to hear? I like hearing when people are thinking about me. So that's story number 1. Idea number 2, here on LinkedIn Learning, and I'll link to it, there's a person who's giving information about how to do an introduction in a place where you feel a little bit uncomfortable. So we're talking about that space where you're uncomfortable. And she says, and I will link to this, and she says, talk about the other person. Focus on them. Don't focus on you. Focus on them. So I say the same thing. Today is about the you part, you, focusing on the other person. In fact, in coaching, we have this wonderful framework, this tool called me, you, we listening. And it's different ways that we can listen to a person. We'll get into it in more depth later. But in short, when I'm listening to you, I could be thinking about myself and thinking how I'm going to answer. I could be paying attention to you and what you're saying, or I could be paying attention to we and how we're interacting and the things that get unsaid. So just another way of really listening to the you person. All right, so I've told you one story, which is my mishap about just not even saying I'm thinking about the other person and just saying, hey, let's schedule some time. Let's schedule some time because you were on my mind. You really were. All right, story number 2. And you'll notice when I tell stories, I often tell them in the sense of my friend Emily. So story number 2 about my friend Emily. This is a time when Emily wanted to network and wanted to network in a positive, good way. And so what does she do? She says, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go to this networking event. And I'm just going to connect with as many people as I can. So she gets back home and she's got these 15 business cards. She doesn't remember anything about any one person. They just talked and talked and they talked at superficial level. You, where do you work? What's going on? My suggestion is do the you. So talk to the person about them, who they really are. It's just as easy for us to talk about ourselves. But for Emily, when she went out and did this haphazard across the board networking, she felt drained. She didn't feel like she actually knew one of those people. So when you are speaking with people, just find out a little more. Even in a first, we're doing a lot of things virtually these days. Even in one of those first meetings, it's easy to get right down to business. But who is this person you're speaking with? How did they find themselves in this job today? So a little bit about that person. And in a sense, this reminds me a little bit about what Susan Bernstein, one of our guests, said about if you want a sensational life, pay attention to your senses. So you're listening to someone, pay attention. Pay attention if the story you're telling, they're telling you, if you're getting anxious and excited along with them, pay attention to how you're reacting. Say that, speak that out loud. So what I'm saying is just focus on that you in front of you, that other person. And the reason I'm saying this is, what is the problem? The problem when we're reaching out to someone and saying, hey, maybe you'd like to hear a little more about my business, or maybe you'd like to hear a little more about what these other people do. That's focusing on us. And I know this is a basic concept. I know you've thought about it. I know I've thought about it. It's a basic concept, but it's one of those basic concepts that it helps me to be reminded of again. So, third story, and my favorite of these, actually. The third story is about my friend, let's call this friend Emily as well. And this friend got into circles of becoming like a celebrity. And so this person had the chance to go to all of these openings and events and cocktail hours. And one day, Emily tells me at some point, I had this opportunity. I was standing right next to Jennifer Lopez, almost right next to, and I had the opportunity to go up and to say, hi, I'm Emily, and been a longtime fan, or just to say something to her. But my hair wasn't quite right that day, and I didn't love what I had put on, so I didn't quite go up to her. And then afterwards, Emily says to me, that distinction between having gone up to her in my perfect getup or the way that I was, that's a 5% difference to anybody else. Emily with excellent setup, or Emily as she was that day, that's a 5% difference, because Emily is all about who she is, personality-wise, how she comes across. That little distinction that feels so big to us, can feel so big to us, is a small distinction for someone else. They're meeting us, they're meeting the whole of us at the same time. So that is story number 3. And I'm just wondering if I want to point out one other person who's been on our sessions, Margaret Greenberg, my co-author and longtime friend. And she said, how do you grow your business in a pandemic? You call people that you care about and you ask, how are you? I think sometimes we all underestimate the importance or even the power of the simplest question of how are you? And when we do that, we're talking to them as a person. Just like Alex Goldfein said yesterday, instead of writing thank you notes, let's write human notes. Let's just write a note about how this was fun to talk about, or this reminded me of you. Just like that, Margaret Greenberg is saying, hey, you're reaching out to someone. Everyone's in a weird situation these days. Talk about it. Find out what their regular day-to-day life is like, what their day is like. So with that, we come to the conclusion. I've sort of walked you through a few experiences of how you could focus on the other person, like how I wrote, so I'll just summarize them. I wrote an email and I just forgot to say I'm thinking of you, when that's the reason why I wrote the email in the first place. And then a colleague, Emily, went to a networking event, talked to 15 people, did not have a deep connection, and realized, what if I had just spoken to one and gotten more? And then another colleague, Emily, did not meet with Jennifer Lopez because she just wasn't sure about her. But if she had focused on Jennifer Lopez, that might have been a little different. So I leave you with one simple statement, which is, I'm thinking about you. What if you were to use that sentence today? I was thinking about you, and I was thinking about you and I texted. I was thinking about you and I'm leaving you this message. I was thinking about you. And I say that from a very honest, authentic point of view. When you're thinking about someone, why not? Today has been talking all about the you, and in networking, how to get out of ourselves and how to get into that person, how to get into you. And today has been an enjoyable time to summarize a lot of the different content that we've been hearing here. Thank you so much for joining us.